Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on accelerating memory forensics during incident response. I want to thank you all for joining us. I am really excited for the presentation we have prepared for you today. But before we begin, I do want to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared out to you via email upon the conclusion of today's session. And furthermore, we'll be hosting a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so feel free to use the control panel at the bottom of your screen to ask those questions at any point in time, and we'll help address those at the end. So today's agenda, we'll go over a quick introduction of the speakers, as well as a quick intro on Simplify and Intezer. Then we'll get right into the meat of the presentation on accelerating memory forensics and malware analysis. And then we'll even demonstrate those use cases in action so you can get a feel for how this plays out in a real life scenario. And then as mentioned, we'll finish with a quick Q&A. So it's my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Joining us from Intezer, we have Chen Shafir, who's a Technical Alliances Manager. She has nearly a decade of cybersecurity experience and specializing in malware analysis. So perfect for today's topic. And then on our side at Simplify, we have Daniel Desarens, who's a Senior Security Solutions Architect, also with nearly a decade of experience in cybersecurity, most recently working in the SOC at Ford Motor Company. So just quickly to go over a little background on Simplify. As a company, we are rooted in security operations, or as we like to say, we were born in the SOC. Our company was founded by security operations experts who worked in a government SOC and then went on to train dozens and dozens of both military and civilian SOCs from around the world. They founded the company and developed Simplify based on their experiences and everything that security operations teams need to succeed. We are the leading independent security operations platform, and we're trusted by the biggest and best enterprises and MSSPs from around the world. Many of the Fortune 500 companies and Gartner Magic Quadrant MSSPs trust Simplify as the platform to run their security operations day in and day out. This is clearly reflected in our Gartner Peer Insights reviews, where we're the number one rated SOAR platform. And finally, we're designed with the customer in mind, providing rapid time to value, flexibility, and power to close the gap between on-prem and cloud security operations, which is more important now than ever with the hybrid workforce and current work environments today. So with that, I will hand things over to Chen to get us started with Intezer.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. Before diving into memory forensics, I would like to start with a short story about why Intezer was founded. So our founders are all coming from a technological background. Our CEO led the IDF CERT, our CTO managed large cybersecurity projects, and they both dealt with nation-sponsored attack. Even though they had top cybersecurity solution, when it comes to dealing with advanced threats, they ended up using a reverse engineer to get an actual and meaningful context in order to handle the alert properly and close it faster. Then they understood that they want to duplicate the reverse engineer capabilities into a technology that will provide the same insights automatically and at scale. That's how genetic malware analysis was born. Next slide, please. So genetic malware analysis basically relies on the understanding that legitimate software developers and attackers both reuse code in order to develop a software update or even a new software, but they won't write it from scratch. So what we actually do is breaking down the code into tiny fragments we call genes, then take the genetic approach and compare each and every tiny fragment of code to our database, which has billions and billions of genes indexed based on where we've seen them in the past. So we are leveraging code reuse technology to give IR and SOC teams clear context and, let's say, a full DNA mapping of this code and its capabilities. Based on this technology, we've developed two products, Intezer Protect, a cloud workload protection platform, and Intezer Analyze, which is our main focus in this webinar. So Intezer Analyze combine this unique technology together with some other techniques such as sandboxing, static analysis, memory analysis, in order to help security teams answer all the questions they need in order to automate end-to-end malware investigation under one platform. You can upload file or scan memory and get verdict whether it's malicious or not. If it's malicious, what type of malware are you dealing with? What its capabilities are, and more information in order to help you close the incident fast and properly. So if we'll take a look from a security analyst perspective, the main pain point of the industry today is that most of the IR analysts, like tier 1 or 2, are getting loads of alerts from different cybersecurity solutions like EDR, firewalls, and others. And they've got to answer a bunch of tough questions along the way in order to really understand what they're facing with and close the incident properly. So if we'll take a look at the questions, we need to understand, is this incident is false positive or not? If it's not, what kind of threat is it? Who created it? What its capabilities are? And how do I need to respond and remediate? And in order to get these answers, they have to go through tons of different tools, like, as you can see at the right hand screen, you can see static analysis, sandboxes, reverse engineers tools, and lots of different tools that will require different skills, and it will be a bit time consuming. Instead of that, we're offering an all-in-one malware investigation platform to really provide you all the information that you need in order to deal with this alert fatigue. Now, I would like to focus on one side effect of the alert fatigue, which is treating the symptom of the attack, but not handling the root cause. And what do I mean by that? For example, you get an alert that the firewall blocked a suspicious communication attempt from a specific endpoint in your organization, so it's good. But unfortunately, it's only the symptom. And in order to understand the root cause, you need to do a memory forensics. Now, what is memory forensics in a nutshell? It's basically the analysis of the volatile data in a computer memory dump. Why it is so important? Memory forensics is crucial because there are things that only exist in memory. For example, fileless malware. They does not have a binary file associated with it as normal processes do. Also, memory forensics helps in analyzing malware, since in memory, malware artifact can be analyzed more thoroughly, then we can create more useful IOCs. Now, if I'll sum this part up, memory forensics has a lot of powerful to establish hidden context in an investigation, and it should be included as an integral part of the investigation process. Unfortunately, memory forensics has its own challenges, but I believe that in this webinar, we can help you understand how to overcome these challenges and start using it.
Daniel, if you're speaking right now, you're still on mute.
No problem. Yeah, so in some of these challenges that we face are the alert fatigue, along with just all the different tools sending data into the SIEM and having to review that information, as well as kind of just the manual process it takes to handle those tasks and really identify what the problem is and get to that resolution. And so as we kind of work through that process of kind of dealing with the alert, And if you click on the next slide there, if we work through that process of dealing with the alert and getting that alert into your SIM, or even alerting in the information that's coming in through the events and doing those correlations, we have that alert that we then have to identify and collect information from the various different solutions. Integer, it could be something from like some threat intelligence. We could be going out into endpoint solutions, or even getting user information, trying to collect all that data so that we then can start to do our investigation and analyze the information so that we can start to respond. And at the end of the day, ultimately getting to that point where we can start to drive metrics and other things around the information that we're collecting, but bringing that all together into one platform and trying to pull all that information from various different solutions can be somewhat difficult. And so as we go ahead and hop into the Simplify platform, you'll see how bringing SOAR and Integer and other tool solutions together into one platform can really help you to start to handle those cases automatically and really bring you to the point where we can start to do things much quicker and easier. And so let me share my screen here. We're going to jump into the case here. And so let me just talk about how we would get this information into Simplify. Is we would actually be gathering data from your alerting source. Now that could be something like a SIM solution. It could be your EDR, or it could be an email inbox, but something like that. We're going to then take that information, pull it into Simplify, and pull out all the different indicators that would be involved within that alert. And those could be things like your hashes, your URLs, IP addresses, files, the file paths, those types of things is the information that we're going to then start to parse out, and for Simplify, put into something we call entities. And as we do that, we then can start our process of investigation. So we have the information in this case, and as an analyst kind of jumps into this case, they have the information that's related to the alert. And so if we took this specific alert, we're looking at an alert that would have came from an antivirus solution or an EDR solution that detected a piece of malware on an endpoint. And so that detection comes up. And typically what you would have to do is you would have to go into your SIM, you'd see the alert, that you start your investigation. You go and gather all the data from the various different solutions that you're utilizing. And you start that manual process of kind of starting to work through the data to understand actually what's happening. Well, within Simplify, we're pulling all that data together. And as an alert comes in, we're automatically attaching a playbook to it that then is going to start to do some of that process of collection of the data for you. And so we go out to something like Integer and we pull down the memory dump. We do a quick scan of the memory dump, analyzing the information that's there. And we want to make sure that we're presenting you with the information as the analyst, the information that's really important. And that's really where this insight section comes into play. As you can see here within Integer, we have information that's related to that scan results. We also have threat intelligence that we could go out and gather data from a variety of different sources, like VirusTotal and OTX, or even something that Simplify we have here is called ThreatFuse. But pulling all that threat intelligent information into one platform so that we can then query it and get a risk associated with it, all around really the indicators. And then we have the Active Directory information just around that user information, but pulling all this data together so that we ultimately can then start to show the information that's going to help us understand what is that next step. Our goal within Simplify is to help you get to the answer faster, to identify what's wrong, and really get to the point where you can say, okay, after doing the scan of the memory and the processes that are there, and we've analyzed the code, we've understand that Integer has found this to be malicious. And how many of the code segments in there are malicious? We can see that here as well. We see that out of the different pieces of memory that we've analyzed, 3 of those modules have been found to be malicious, and this is the malware family. And this is just starting to present you with information that's important to you for you to then start to understand what is that next step? What is the next step that I need to take? And how can I start to respond to this? And how those response actions can kind of change depending on what your processes are. And that's really where our playbooks come into play. So as we kind of start to work through this process, you can see all the data collection happening up front here, but then we can make a decision based off of the information that we just collected. What action does the analyst, you as the analyst, want to take? Do you want to go out and isolate the machine? Do you want to go out and block maybe the hash? Do you want to do some additional searching? Those things can all take place within the Simplify system, either automatically or manually within the process that you want to handle that. But if we were to drill down into some of the integer information, not only can we see this from a high level of the information that's coming back from the product, but we also have a way that we can click and open up the integer product to actually identify more specifically what's here. And I'm going to let Shen go ahead and take that from here and kind of talk through this a little bit.
Thanks, Daniel. So a quick glance about the endpoint analysis. As you can see it here, we can see that the first thing here is the verdict of the endpoint. Now we can know that we're dealing with an infected endpoint, and we classify the malwares that are running in this endpoint as Emotet, a banking Trojan. At the left-hand screen, you can see that all the modules that we've collected and analyzed. So it's not only detecting and classifying malicious code, but we also classifying and analyzing trusted code, as you can see here. But our main focus is really to investigate the malicious code that is running in memory. And as you can see here, you can really drill down to the actual blocks of code and see what type of behavior and its capabilities. Also, you can see the actual process tree and the file that were the file in disk that were loaded into memory. As you can see here, it loaded 3 malicious modules, and you can really dive deep into each and every malicious module and investigate it further. Also, you're able to generate Yara signatures based on these malicious block code and really understand the scale of the attack, and also protect yourself against future attacks which can contain these malicious block code. So this is really a quick glance of memory scan analysis. And of course, in this same platform, you can also upload files, scan hashes, and get same context that you can see here, and further investigate it during the entire investigation process.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Shen, for that presentation. Go away. I want to let everyone know that we will be jumping into the Q&A now. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to use your control panel to ask those at this point. But jumping right in, someone would like to know, are you also looking at files on the hard drive as part of this scan?
So no, no, we focus only on what's run in memory, either if it's memory dump or live memory scan, since if we have an active threat, it should be found in memory. And of course, it's faster to investigate.
Awesome. And someone would like to know, how are you dealing with completely new malware?
Great question. So new malware is not mean that necessarily it's new code. If the code is completely new, which is really rare, you should see it classified as unknown code, which can also be detected by us as suspicious. And of course, you could further investigate it with our platform and see the behavior and all the information that we can provide in order to understand what its capabilities are.
Thanks, Shen. Another question. What if I only have the memory dump and no access to the endpoint?
So if you already plugged off the endpoint or you have only the memory dump, so we have a plugin for volatility, which is built up upon our framework and use our genetic software mapping. And it basically analyzes and classifies all the binary code inside this memory dump.
Awesome. A question for Daniel on Simplify. Do we have a use case library as it pertains to setting up responses to common things like malware or phishing and other common threats?
So yes, we do inside of our marketplace, along with the multiple different integrations that we have that you can utilize. There also is a repository of use cases that we have available that you can download and use. And those would include things like a playbook. It also would include all the integrations that are associated with those playbooks. But it really gives you an easy way of getting started in utilizing Simplify. So yes.
Thanks, Daniel. Another quick question about Simplify. Someone would like to know if our platform is multi-tenant.
So the Simplify platform is multi-tenant, and so you can configure it to run so that as you ingest and collect information, that each of your customers or even business units can go under their own, if you will, tenant. And as you pull that data in together, you're still working out of one console, so that all the data is there for you to be able to view and to work, all while kind of pulling everything together and keeping that if you will, single pane of glass, if you will, approach to dealing with your cases. And so when pulling that data in, though, you can start to do your investigation where the playbooks would then run, and I can start to build playbooks for each of the tenants or have the same playbook run across them. So the multi-tenancy piece is very robust when it comes to the Simplify side.
Awesome. And it sounds like you just alluded to it, but the next question was, if we are multi-tenant and we do analyze and confirm malware on one of our tenants, are we then able to remediate it across or prevent it across all of our tenants?
So you definitely can utilize the ThreatFuse system that I was showing earlier, which is our tip. That if you identify something to be malicious on one, it can certainly then be utilized to pull in and start to remediate across your other tenants inside the platform. And something that you can definitely use that for as we submit data back into the tip or even pull data enrichment. It can start to create cases that would allow you to remediate across your tenants and across just to kind of your greater, just everybody that's involved in that in your environment.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. It looks like those are all of the questions that have come through so far. So with that, I wanted to quickly mention our communities. So both Intezer and Simplify, we offer a free community edition of our platform. So if you liked what you saw today, you can get your hands on them right away. With Intezer Analyze, you get a clear classification of your threats in seconds. And you can classify up to 50 files per month if you go to intezer.com/get started. And at Simplify, we have a free, again, community edition of our platform where you can go from zero to hero with ready to deploy use cases, playbooks, integrations, you name it, we have it right out of the box ready for you. And what's also great is that in addition to our community platform, we also have a literal community. We have a huge Slack channel where you get complete access to, you can connect with tons of experts on security operations, on SOAR, a lot of information sharing. Excuse me. We also have a bunch of community members who have actually published some of those use cases and playbooks and integrations in the Simplify community. So it's a very collaborative and fantastic opportunity. So again, you can go and download that and gain access if you visit simplify.co/community. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We sincerely appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and got something out of this. And with that, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.